All right, this is a Nissan K21 engine, and we're going to go over uh, LPG pressure testing, fuel pressure testing. All right, this particular unit has a check engine light for an air fuel alpha bank 1 malfunction. Pretty much Nissans use air fuel alpha as their fuel trim designation. On a scan tool, 100% would indicate that there is no fuel correction. Numbers above 100% would indicate a lean condition, meaning that the ECM is adding whatever percent above 100 across the board. And if it's below 100, if it's 80, 90, that means that the ECM is taking away that difference from 100 across the board. So if it was 90, that means it's running rich and it's taking away 10% of fuel delivery across the board. If it's 110, it's adding 10% across the board, and in that case it would be running lean. All right, so this system uses a vaporizer, LPG vaporizer. I just have a low pressure gauge / vacuum gauge hooked up into the pressure port of this vaporizer. It uses one main LP injector. This is pulse width modulators controlled on the positive side as opposed to the negative side, like many fuel injectors. And it also has an assist fuel injector. That is for when the engine is under high load. All right, so pretty much when the ECM gets a signal above 3.5 volts from the mass airflow sensor, that assist ejector is activated. All right, so this engine is running lean at idle. It runs extremely rough, and the minute you step on the throttle, it basically stalls out. All right, so I did all preliminary checks, anything to deal with an air fuel ratio problem, check for vacuum leaks, make sure the engine is volumetrically efficient, meaning that it can breathe. So everything led me to checking fuel pressure. So on this system, with the key on, you're going to get an initial spike between 8 and 9 psi, and when the engine's running, it'll drop down to about 4 or 5 psi, and it'll stay between that range of just under 4 to 4.5 psi, and that pressure should stay steady. It should not really fluctuate too high or too low. Give or take plus or minus half a psi. All right, so at idle, it should be around 4 psi, and under heavy load should not go really above 4.5. All right, so what I'm gonna do, I'm just gonna turn the key on. All right, and I'm going to start it. All right. So that initial spike to about 8 psi, and now it's at about 4.2 psi. Engine's running real rough. I'm just going to snap the throttle. All right, you saw my gauge drop down to 1 psi and then stall out. So pretty much these vaporizers, they're about $1,000. I've had to replace these very rarely. A lot of times there is a drain on the bottom over there, and what you can do is you can a byproduct of propane, especially liquid propane, it starts to gel up and get really oily, and it'll clog up this vaporizer. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to drain it, and a lot of times there's an adjustment. There's a fuel adjustment nut right here. You got to take out these 2 tamper-proof Torx, and there's a lock nut. You loosen the lock nut, and you can turn the fuel adjustment in to to adjust the secondary diaphragm. So that's what I'm going to do.